My name is Peyton Kutcha. We've done it. We've reached the end of our journey in Theater 2. Welcome to day 4 of SAS Innovate. We're so happy to have you here. We've got an amazing set of presenters for you. Thank you for coming with us throughout this journey. We hope you've learned a lot. We've loved having you. We've got an amazing last presentation in Theater 2 today. We've got Transforming Clinical Programming with SAS Clinical Acceleration. Kim Poplinski is going to take you on this journey. And before I get into too much depth, Kim, take it away.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for hanging this long into the conference with me. Let's talk about transforming clinical programming with SAS Clinical Acceleration. So I want to talk about how we got here first. Currently, today, we see technology is evolving at breakneck speed, and clinical research and supporting technology just isn't always keeping up. We're managed by regulatory agencies with strict controls, requiring meticulous documentation, which leads to companies implementing and maintaining manual and resource-intensive solutions. These solutions are repetitive, using manpower that could be better utilized for higher-level tasks. And finally, as technology does evolve, we're seeing unprecedented amounts of data coming in from sources we weren't even prepared for 10 years ago. The data has to be integrated and cleaned quickly for insights and decisions. Like I like to say, we want the science to drive the technology and not the other way around. So last year, SAS introduced our first module in addressing these challenges, the SAS Clinical Acceleration Repository. The solution was our first step in helping integrate data in a scalable manner that was accessible to entire teams. But this year, we're taking the next step and introducing Clinical Acceleration. Clinical Acceleration is our full statistical compute environment on VIA. The foundation of SAS Clinical Acceleration is SAS VIA, an AI, analytic, and data management platform that runs on a modern scalable architecture, which is optimized for cloud deployment. The solution is accessed via web browser, so you can maintain a low footprint on local machines. It provides all the benefits of the repository, easy native version control, fine-grained permissions and privileges, and a robust audit log, while introducing a tight integration with SAS Studio Next as our IDE. This removes the need to move data via API, instead allows it to be kept in one single qualified environment. Once you've completed the programming, programs can be chained together in a batch submission, and we'll manage the traceability and reproducibility of that batch submission via Manifest. Finally, you can automate these processes or any standard processes your team wants via workflows. Now on to the payoff. Let's start off as a lead statistician. Here I am in my repository. This is my single version of the truth. You can see at my top level, I have my study we'll be working with today, XMB 111, set up as a context. A context is like a folder plus plus, and what I mean by plus plus is that I have some additional privileges that I can set at a context level for anything stored within it that I don't have at a folder level. I also have a whole list of contexts available to me so I can access multiple portfolios and protocols from the same repository. What I need to do is get some permissions and privileges sorted, so I'm going to go ahead and go in here. You can see some properties that are set up, and I also have tags. Tags make it so I can do things like tag standard macros, or maybe programs that are useful across portfolios to help my team find them more easily within the solution. Permissions are related to the content, who can read, write, delete, or administer the content. These can be changed in real time in the application by members with the appropriate privileges, such as me. So here are all the members of my current context, and I need to add another lead statistician, Adam, to gain access. Next, we see groups, and groups are collections of members. Groups can be used for assigning privileges or permissions to a set of members more easily. We're only going to make changes to one person today, so I'm not going to add an extra group. If I do go to my Roles tab, though, this is where I can create a new role with associated privileges and then add the appropriate users. Today, I've been asked to set up a new lead statistician who will be signing off on production-ready files for a deliverable. I'll need to add a role, and we'll call it signatory, and I'll add my user, Adam, to this role. He'll only get the signed files privilege since that's all he needs to do within this context. Okay, now I'm going to go and add Adam as well. So now as I go back and I dig down into XMB 111, I can see that I have a folder structure. And if I look at the properties of a folder, I can see that all I can manage here are the permissions. And that's because, like we talked about, the privileges are set at a context level. So he should be set up for all of these folders below with those privileges we just gave him. When I then dig down into a folder, you see my content. I'm not sure why we're on version 2.0, so let's look at that. Okay, version 1.0 was loaded by Matt, and version 2.0 was loaded by June, and it was signed. That's usually my signal that it's ready to go. And yep, it's approved for use, so I'm ready to go with this one. Now let's head back to the repository and begin as one of my clinical programmers to begin their tasks. Now, let's say I'm a clinical programmer, and I've been tasked with updating a dataset based on changes to the age range for inclusion to my protocol. I'm realistically going to spend most of my time working with the repository directly through SAS Studio Next or Clinical Job Management, so I'm going to navigate to Develop Code and Flows. Along my left-hand navigation pane, you see my repository icon, which when I open, it will display to me all the items in the repository that the lead statistician gave me access to. When I drill down into XMB 111, you can see all the programs that have been created and stored in the repository. And I love all the information I can glean about the repository directly from SAS Studio. Repository status, repository version, workspace status are important to me as a user because they provide important context for my work. But the repository is that single version of truth. I do my work in the workspace. I'm going to need to copy XMB 111 to my workspace so that I can begin my changes. Action status is showing me that the copy is completed and I can view the details because it looks like something didn't quite work like I expected. I love that I can decrease the size of these toolbars and increase the size of my workspace on my screen. Okay, I can see that everything copied except those HTML files, but they're currently configured to be blocked in my application, so that's fine. We're updating a program anyways. Next, I'm going to navigate back to the workspace and go back to my programs within XMB 111. In the far column, I have a green check icon that shows me I have a copy in my workspace that exactly matches that in my repository. But I currently have a whole team working on this protocol, and I could see that RL demo was checked out by Matt, so it looks like he must be making some changes to this program in his workspace. I'm going to check out D0DM to mine, and I'm going to make my edits. This will show an icon in the repository so everyone knows that I'm actively working on this program. So first, I'm going to add to the changelog of the program, per my normal practice. I'll add my date, programmer, description, the typical change information. Watching yourself type is painful, isn't it? Next, I'm going to make my edits to the program and add a new age group for adults based on updated inclusion criteria to the protocol. There'll be a new group included who are moving forwards. Finally, I can save my changes directly back to my workspace. So I can run this and look at my log and output directly here in SAS Studio to make sure things are as expected. But to do that, I'm first going to run my autoexec just to define my libraries and instantiate my macro variables. Okay, perfect. Now I can run my new D0DM and just see if there are any errors. No errors in the console. I'm ready to create a batch execution. Oh my gosh, my kids just ran in the room. I lost my train of thought. Did I make all those changes? Let's make sure I finished up what I was doing. So I'm going to go to my checked out files and I'm going to compare the version of my workspace with the version of my repository. Okay, here's my changelog, and here's the changes I was supposed to make for the age group. Perfect. I'll go back to checked out files and I'll check my changes from my workspace into my repository. We use major versions and comments to indicate to others what we did. And as a result, when I check this in, you'll see that there's now a green check on my workspace indicating that the version in the repo matches the version in my workspace. Perfect. Now I need to do a batch run of my DM dataset, so I'm going to create a clinical job, which is essentially just a batch execution of programs. I can right-click and select my programs from my workspace and say, Create New Clinical Job. When I do that, I'm going to go right over to my Clinical Job Management application, where I can name my new job and determine where my outputs will go. We store our outputs with our programs. So now I can see on the Programs tab that the programs I selected are included. Under parameters, I can do things such as dictate where data is saved, or maybe I need to pass a value into a program. Here, I'm going to pass my environment as a value into my program for easy tracking. Next, I have publish setup, which is what is needed to run a job successfully. In this case, I'm not super familiar with this data set, so I'll use a run and populate function to handle it before I publish to the repository. Select save, run and populate. I'll enter dev as our parameter for this run since it's just in my workspace. After selecting run and populate, I'll navigate to my monitor tab to see this job is kicked off successfully. I can see details about the submission and the log and listing in real time while the job is running. Once this is all completed though, I can go back to that job and see that my publish setup has been populated for me. Okay, so for this I need these data sets, I need this macro, and I also need my Atom folder to run. So now that I'm happy with my job, I'll check it into the repository for those production runs. I want to maintain versions of this job too, just in case somebody else comes and makes changes behind me. So I'll enable that once again here. My data management team is waiting on this new output, so I'll go ahead and run the job for them. I'll navigate to my repository directly in Job Management to access my newly created job. But now that we're in the repository, when I run this job, I want to pass the parameter prod, since this is a production run. I run this job, and again, I'll see it's kicked off in my action status and in my job monitor. Now remember, way long ago at the beginning, we talked about versioning. Manifest can be versioned just like any other file in the repository. And this allows me to retain traceability for every single repository run that I do. Now that this job has been run in the repository, I have a Run History tab available where I can see every time this job is run, what the outcome of that run was. Every time I run a job, regardless of it being in my workspace or my repository, I create a manifest file. And manifests take all the responsibility off of me as a clinical programmer and maintaining reproducibility and traceability, and automatically produces it for me. So in the situation the FDA comes and says, show me how this data set was created, it's easy to show the whole picture, from raw data through the programs using this file. And I really love that a manifest is simply JSON, so I can simply pull that information into VA and make it accessible to other team members. I can flip through and see what was used for this exact run along the tabs. The Output tab shows me the manifest, log, and listing were created, as well as that DM data set my team has been asking me for. Okay, my DM team is happy, and they've informed me I'll be getting updated data from EDC monthly. So I can schedule this to run automatically for them. You can see the default parameter set on the schedule, but I'll make sure to override that with prod so they know it's always a production run. This will keep my data sets up to date for them for continued work by other teams as quickly as we get that new data. We're preparing for a DSMB review, so I'll limit this to stop right before that review takes place. Okay, I'll save my schedule, and now it's active. And as my job runs along this schedule, if anyone has any questions about the next time they'll get an output or why they didn't get last month's output, I can go to Future and Historical tabs on the schedule and get that information easily. Finally, I'm back as your lead statistician. Matt has left SAS, and I need to make sure that I've cleaned up anything he's left behind. I'm going to go to the admin tool as it gives me some elevated access to help maintain the repository. Oh, shoot. I bet he still has that RL demo program checked out. No problem. I'll cancel the checkout so that others can pick it up and work on it moving forwards. You know what? I bet Matt is still the owner for that context XMB 111 and folders within. So via the admin app, I can update that ownership to someone else and maintain continuity of those files with new team members. In this case, I'll go ahead and take those files to myself as SAS admin. Okay, the last thing I want to check in the admin app is the audit log. Now, the audit log is available in the repository view as well, but as an admin, I can see everything that's happened by anyone across all applications. I'm going to step back and put my product manager hat on for a second. I've worked on multiple eClinical solutions, and the audit log is a critical piece that I've had to, with a straight face, call human readable, when you and I both know they are not always human readable. This audit log and UI to interact with this audit log is one of the most robust, easiest to read, and easiest to use audit logs I've seen. I can see when the job was run and the outputs were created and checked in. But back as that lead statistician, I need to find out when I, as SAS admin, received permissions to the XMB 111 programs folder. I can filter on permissions changed as my action, and when I hit search, I can see here that Matt gave SAS admin full permissions to the programs folder before he left. Perfect. Now, when management asks me information, I can create reports off of this audit trail in VA to give them exactly what they want and how they want to view it. And if the FDA ever came knocking, we can feel confident that this audit trail will give them every step, the who, what, and the why without hesitation. Just to recap what we've gone through today, at the heart of the SCE is the repository that supports the integrity of clinical research data through version history and audit trails. It's that single version of truth that your team can count on. It provides a central location for collaboration using whatever tools and languages your team depends on. And it not only enables access to these tools, but it provides the tools your team needs to automate these processes and ensure traceability from top to bottom. SAS Clinical Acceleration brings the power of SAS Viya to our customers in healthcare and life sciences and drives clinical statistics into the future. And with that, thank you guys for your time, and reach out to myself or your AE to keep the discussions going.
Thank you so much, Kim. Are there any questions in the crowd? We can bring the microphone over if there are any questions. All right, looks, nope. Oops.
Up.
Oh, we got one? Perfect.
When you save out a new version of a data set or a program, does it save the prior versions in the same area as well that you can get to easy?
Yep, and that version history that I showed you in that first tab, they're all available. You can open up all those previous versions, just pop in and click.
Are there any more questions we can answer?
Matt really hasn't left SAS, guys. That was a joke.
Yeah, a lot of these functionalities seem a lot like Git, but this isn't hosted on a Git repo. It's actually by SAS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This isn't Git. This is native version control, and it's truly just a document version repository.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions in the crowd? Oh, we got one.
And where is that repository?
In SAS Viya.
In SAS.
So looking at the roles and responsibilities that you have in there, does this allow for maintaining a blind on a study so that I can keep the team separate, as well as
Absolutely.
maintaining all the logs according to it, in compliance with ICHE 6?
Absolutely. Yep.
So this repository, you mentioned that it is in SAS Viya, so it connects to the underlying file system, right? And that can be pretty much anything.
No, so our file structure is separate from the underlying SAS Viya file structure. We are integrated with SAS Studio, so you can utilize that underlying file structure, but this is a separate because of the version control, the audit history, and those privileges and permissions.
So this, so if I were to mount my own file system from one of the managed cloud, from managed file system from one of the cloud providers, so this wouldn't integrate with that. This would be a separate system on its own?
You'd want to put your submission-ready documents into the repository separately, because like I said, getting that version control, audit history, those permissions, that is native to our application, to our repository.
Okay.
Make sense?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we have another.
Hey Kim, great
Hi.
presentation.
Thank you.
Is it agnostic to the language? That means basically today you show the demo on SAS. Can I use the same workflow for R or Python?
I love the setup. Yes. Yes.
Hi. I guess at a high level, how does this compare with the current LSAF?
That's a really great question. So this is basically us bringing those LSAF capabilities to VIA. And it's a really cool time that we got to do this too, because we got to bring all the good things from LSAF to VIA, but we really got to take an approach, a very user-centric approach to this. LSAF does all the things very well, but this makes it easy to do the things, in my opinion. So you get all the benefits of VIA while getting all those cool things that we did in LSAF.
All right. One last question from me. Honest to God. With the current release of ICHE6 R3 that comes alive this summer, requirements are for data flow. Can I use this to generate a data flow diagram for submissions?
You can in SAS Studio, so we get all those cool SAS Studio things for free with our integration.
So this would be allowing me for any clinical trial to kick in and produce a data flow as to how that was generated.
Yes. Matt's got you.
To kind of add on to that, one of the things that we're doing next is taking that manifest file where you had a list of what was used for every run. So what were the inputs to a program, what were the outputs to a program, if I was creating data or what that data was used for, being able to do a lineage map.
Making it a
inside
visual.
of a VIA, like a visualization VA. Since this is VIA based, you'll have VA within it. You'll be able to take that manifest file and create like a lineage map.
Make it visual.
So both the lineage map and the transformation log that needs to be available in a submission would be available in here.
Yep.
Would you think what's going to be needed next year? Could you tell me that as well, Matt?
All right, and we still have a little time if there are any more questions. Oh, we got one more.
Is it possible to customize the folder structure?
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Any more queries from the group?
Is this cover the validation process and document?
For the solution itself?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Give it up for Kim one more time. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you for coming to SAS Innovate 2025. We really appreciate you stopping by Theater 2. This has been our final session, and thank you.